Hi there, I'm Marla. I'm an English literature student. This is my own personal struggle to learn English. Part 1: Introduction and Early Challenges. Introducing Marla, a devoted English literature student who once had difficulty mastering the language. She talks about her experience with a buddy who is going through similar difficulties today. Hello, I'm Marla. Like you, I had a lot of trouble learning English when I was a student of English literature. Hello Marla, friend. It's good to meet you. Right now I'm having a terrible time getting better at English, especially when it comes to speaking it fluently. Could you explain how you overcame your obstacles? Of course, Marla. I'll begin at the beginning. I was enthralled with the language when I first began studying English literature, but I also found it to be very difficult. It was daunting to deal with the many dialects, extensive vocabulary, and intricate grammar standards. I recall being really self-conscious and frustrated. That sounds just like what I'm going through. Friend, how did you begin to get better? For me, Marla, the first step was to become as immersed in the language as I could. I started by watching films with subtitles and listening to English language podcasts. It was challenging to keep up at first, but I eventually began to grasp more. The first time I watched a movie without subtitles, I can still clearly recall it. It seemed like a tremendous accomplishment. Friend, I also listen to podcasts in English, but occasionally I still have trouble following along. Be patient with yourself, Marla. It takes time. I found that repeating what I heard was helpful. I would pause the video or podcast and imitate the tone and pronunciation of the speaker. Although first uncomfortable, it greatly enhanced my speaking abilities. I recall rehearsing lines from my favorite programs, attempting to mimic the rhythms and tones of the actors. That makes sense, friend. Have you had any practice interacting with people? Yes, Marla, I did. In order to practice conversing with native English speakers, I enrolled in a language exchange program. At first it was frightening, but they were really supportive and gently corrected my errors. This practice in real time was really helpful. I also joined my university's English Conversation Club, which offered a helpful setting for speaking practice. Speaking with native speakers makes me a little bashful. Friend, what helped you get over your fear? Marla, I understand that making errors is a necessary part of learning, but I was also shy. When you make an attempt to learn their language, native speakers typically appreciate it. I began by striking up casual discussions like the weather, hobbies, or everyday activities in order to gain confidence. I gradually advanced to more difficult subjects. Additionally, I discovered that I felt more at ease speaking with native speakers after initially practicing with other students. That seems like a sensible strategy, friend. How about the language? I frequently forget new terms. Marla, I commit new words to memory using flashcards. I wrote the word on one side and on the other, its definition in a sample sentence. Regularly going over these helps me remember things. Learning new language was also more engaging and pertinent when I read books and articles about subjects I was interested in. Additionally, I kept a vocabulary journal in which I would write down new words I came across and go over them from time to time. Flashcards sound useful, friend. I ought to give it a shot. Did grammar present any difficulties for you? Yes, Marla. One of the hardest things for me was grammar. I set aside time every day to learn various grammatical rules and practice constructing sentences with them. I also took tests and quizzes using grammar websites and apps, which helped me remember what I had learned. A grammar notebook that included exercises and explanations for every subject was one really useful resource. Part 2: Overcoming Obstacles and Gaining Self-Belief. Friend, it appears that you took a methodical approach to your education. Yes, Marla. It was essential to have a plan. Every week I make tiny, manageable goals, such as mastering a specific grammar rule, or picking up a specific quantity of new words. This provided me a sense of success, and lessened the overwhelming nature of the procedure. In order to guarantee steady practice, I also planned frequent study sessions. Marla, that's really motivating, friend. How much time did it take you to master the language? It took me a few years of constant work, Marla. Keep in mind that everyone learns differently, so avoid comparing yourself to other people. The important thing is to keep training and not let failures deter you. Even though there were moments when I thought I was not moving forward, I can now see how far I have come. Marla, I really appreciate you sharing your story, friend. I've gained more motivation and a clearer understanding of how to approach my studies. You're welcome, Marla. Keep in mind that perseverance is essential. With continued practice, you'll get better over time. Please get in touch if you ever need help or guidance. I'll thank you again, friend. I've gained hope from your narrative. I'm happy to hear that, Marla. Enjoy the process of learning English and good luck in your academic endeavors. Before we leave, friend, could you elaborate on the precise techniques you employ to increase your speaking fluency? Yes, Marla. For me, shadowing was a successful tactic. In order to do this, you must listen to a native speaker and try your best to mimic what they say. I used news broadcasts, TED Talks, and YouTube videos to do this. My rhythm, intonation, and pronunciation all improved as a result. That sounds intriguing, friend. How often did you practice shadowing? I made an effort to shadow Marla for at least half an hour each day. It's crucial to be consistent, and I developed a habit by practicing every day. My ability to talk fluently has significantly improved over time. That makes sense, friend. Did you use any particular methods to hone your writing abilities? Yes, Marla. I kept a daily notebook in which I recorded my thoughts, feelings, and day in English. This helped me practice writing regularly and express myself more fluently. In order to share my writing and get criticism from others, I also joined an online writing community. A daily journal seems like a smart idea. Friend, have you ever experienced discouragement while learning? Several times, Marla. There were times when I thought I would never become fluent, or that I was not improving at all. I concentrated on the little successes during those moments, and reminded myself why I had begun learning English. I stayed motivated by acknowledging and applauding my accomplishments, no matter how minor. Part 3. Setting goals and retaining motivation. How did you manage to stay motivated over time, friend? Marla, setting reasonable objectives and tracking my progress helped a lot. Making connections with other students who were traveling the same path inspired me as well. We supported one another and exchanged advice and materials. Locating a learning community can have a significant impact. I'll look for a learning community as well, friend. I appreciate the tip. Do you have any last words of wisdom for someone just starting off like me? Finally, Marla, I would advise you to remain persistent and patient. Learning a new language is a marathon, not a sprint. Although there may be ups and downs, every effort you make will get you closer to your objective. Continue honing your skills, look for chances to speak the language, and most of all, have fun. Marla, thank you, friend. Your story is truly motivational. Additionally, your suggestion is really beneficial. I now have a lot more faith in my own ability to learn. I'm happy to hear that, Marla. Never forget that I'm always available to help. Good luck and happy learning. Marla, thank you, friend. I'll update you on my progress. Enjoy your wonderful day. You too, Marla. Be careful and continue to practice. Part 4. In-depth look at useful advice and methods. Marla, friend, would you mind taking a closer look at some useful advice? How did you manage idioms and expressions? For instance, I am frequently perplexed by them. Idioms and expressions can be difficult to translate because they don't always translate exactly, Marla. Idioms now have their own place in my vocabulary journal. Every time I came across a new phrase, I would record it and explain what it meant in a sample sentence. It was really beneficial to practice them in context. Breaking the ice, for instance, refers to initiating a conversation in a social situation. In a statement like, "He told a joke to break the ice at the meeting," I would use it. That's a smart concept, friend. Have you looked up any idioms online? Yes, Marla. There are a ton of excellent materials available online. I frequently consult online resources such as the Idiom Connection and the Cambridge Dictionary. These websites offer thorough justifications and illustrations, which are really beneficial. Idiom usage in casual conversation was also made clearer to me by watching TV series and films. I see, friend, phrasal verbs. What about them? They can also be very perplexing. Phrasal verbs can be challenging, Marla. They typically have connotations that aren't clear from the words themselves. I approached phrasal verbs in the same way as I approached idioms, Phrasal verbs are the subject of a special section in my vocabulary journal. The phrasal verb, its definition, and sample sentences were all provided in each entry. For example, to give up is to cease trying. Thus I stated, she persevered through difficult times. That seems useful, friend. Have you had any experience speaking using phrasal verbs? Yes, Marla. I deliberately tried to incorporate new phrasal verbs into my everyday speech. As a result, they became more natural in my speech, and their meanings were reinforced. Sorting phrasal verbs according to the primary verb also helped me. I would, for instance, enumerate every phrasal verb that has the word get together, such as get along, get by, get over, and so forth. That's a smart concept, friend. I'll begin classifying them as well. What about pronunciation? With all of its exceptions, pronouncing words correctly in English may be very difficult. Marla, I had a lot of trouble pronouncing words correctly. I utilized numerous strategies to improve. Practicing minimum pairs words that differ by only one sound, such as ship and sheep, was one useful strategy. I was able to differentiate between similar noises thanks to this. Additionally, I made use of online resources such as the Forvo website, which features word pronunciations by native speakers. I was able to correctly pronounce the consonants by repeating and listening to these pronunciations. Minimal pairs seem intriguing, friend. How did you put them into practice? I was also able to pinpoint areas that required work by recording myself and comparing my pronunciation to that of native speakers. I also worked on my articulation and quickness by practicing tongue twisters. I think it would be a terrific idea to record yourself, friend. I'll give it a shot. Have you taken any classes on pronunciation? Yes, Marla, I did. It was incredibly helpful to attend pronunciation training and workshops. Teachers gave students tailored feedback and demonstrated certain methods for enhancing intonation and articulation. Additionally, these seminars offered a safe space where students could practice speaking without worrying about criticism. Friend, I'll look into finding a pronunciation class. How about the ability to listen? Sometimes I can't keep up with native speakers because they speak so quickly. Marla, it takes patience and practice to get better at listening. I began with slower-paced material, such as audiobooks and podcasts for beginners, and worked my way up to quicker speaking. It was also beneficial to use the playback speed adjustment feature on video platforms. I was able to hear every word and comprehend the speaker better when I slowed down the pace. That's a smart tip, friend. When you were listening, did you employ any particular strategies? Active listening was essential, Marla. I would make notes on important ideas, unfamiliar words, and intriguing phrases, rather than just listening passively. I would give my own summary of the information after listening to it. This exercise strengthened my speaking abilities, while also enhancing my comprehension. In order to stay interested and enhance my ability to anticipate typical phrases and patterns, I also made an effort to guess what the speaker would say next. Active listening seems like it might be really beneficial. Friend, how did you handle various accents? It was important for Marla to be exposed to different accents. I listened to material from a variety of English-speaking nations, including the US, Canada, Australia, and the UK. This helped me get adjusted to diverse pronunciations and intonations. Did you have a harder time with any particular accent, friend? Marla, I found British accents difficult at first, since they varied from American English in terms of vowel sounds and intonation patterns. However, I grew more at ease with frequent exposure and practice. Listening to British radio stations and watching British television programs was really beneficial. I'll try that too, friend. What about reading? Were there any tactics that you found very useful for enhancing your reading abilities? Reading a lot was essential, Marla. I started with basic books and subsequently moved on to more complicated literature. I employed the following techniques to increase the effectiveness of reading, scanning, and skimming. I worked on scanning for specific information and skimming for the major themes. I became a more proficient reader as a result. Text annotation. I summarized paragraphs, underlined important aspects, and took notes in the margins. My understanding and memory of the text were enhanced by this active interaction. Reading out loud. This helped me understand the rhythm and flow of the language better, in addition to helping me pronounce words correctly. Those are excellent tactics. Friend, have you read any particular kinds of books or articles? Marla, in order to expose myself to a range of writing styles and vocabularies, I read a number of genres: fiction, nonfiction, journalism, and academic periodicals. Each presented unique difficulties and learning possibilities. In order to improve my comprehension and appreciation of the content, I also joined a book club, which gave me a forum to talk with others about what I read. It sounds like a lot of fun and education to join a book club. Friend, I'll search for one. Did you find any specific writers or books particularly beneficial? Yes, Marla, reading famous authors like Jane Austen, Charles Dickens, and George Orwell enhanced my enjoyment of English literature, while also helping me become a better language user. Modern writers such as J.K., because of their captivating and approachable writing, Rowling and Stephen King were also excellent. Nonfiction writers such as Bill Bryson and Malcolm Gladwell offered engaging and educational reading. I'll read some of those authors. Friend, how did you organize your schedule to fit reading in with other language learning tasks? Time management was essential, Marla. I made a weekly plan that included practice sessions for speaking, writing, listening, and reading. I made an effort to incorporate language study into my everyday schedule. For instance, I would write in my notebook before bed, listen to podcasts while working out, and read on my commute. I was able to make consistent improvement because of this consistency. Friend, it sounds like a good plan. How did you prevent burnout and maintain consistency? Marla, I kept things interesting by varying my tasks to prevent burnout. Variety is crucial. I also took regular breaks and allowed myself to relax and refuel. I stayed motivated by setting attainable goals and acknowledging my accomplishments, no matter how minor. I was able to maintain my focus by recalling my initial motivation for learning English, and by keeping my final objectives in mind. Here are some motivating lines to inspire you on your road to speaking English fluently. You get closer to fluency with each word you say. Making mistakes shows that you're trying and growing. Speaking out loud and frequently will help you gain confidence. Your biggest strength is your commitment to learning English. Being fluent is a process rather than a final goal. Savor each step. It will sound more natural the more you talk. Have faith in your own abilities to become fluent in English. Every discussion offers a chance to develop and get better. Recall that even native speakers were novices at one point. Your perseverance and hard effort will be rewarded. Continue.